Your principal thinks I should teach using the Socratic method. That's where we have an open back-and-forth discussion. And when it's over, I'll want to drink poison. Yeah.
I wanna take you, baby, down and build you high. Chit-chat with my buddies, gonna make you feel fine. You know I wanna take you. That's an hour session down at Radio High.
Video High.
Let's see what I got. All right. When making the original Ren and Stimpy cartoons, creator John K. reported, oh, no, sorry. Let me start it again.
Take two.
Take two.
That's for a different podcast.
Oh, shit. Okay. When making the original Ren and Stimpy cartoons, creator John K. reportedly wanted the soundtrack to make the show incomprehensible to those not looking at the screen. Our movie today, 1992's Kung Fu Rascals, was kind of on the same wavelength. But rather than just stopping at making the soundtrack incomprehensible, they went full hog and applied it to the whole thing. The story concerns three friends, the director of the movie, a white guy dressed as Bruce Lee, and Rufio, as they go on a quest to find the power most big. Meanwhile, the evil Jakar from Babylon 5, the Bamboo Man, sends his giant pig thing Rasmutant to destroy the three Kung Fu Rascals and take away their gingerbread man. The Rascals, Chen Chow Mein, Lao Zi, and Repo, must defeat the sinister chef of Tsinghua County, as well as take down the Bamboo Man's forces. Fighting, slapstick, and giant monsters ensue. Your enjoyment of this movie hinges on whether you're tickled by the names of our three heroes, because it is all downhill from here. The jokes fly like kicks, and the kicks land like jokes, which is to say, poorly. With more pee-pee jokes than your average kindergarten class, Kung Fu Rascals underlines what happens when you have no budget and no ideas. A rather long 90-minute Power Rangers episode without Bulk and Skull, this is what happens when a special effects artist directs a movie. With no more than 5 enjoyable minutes in this for me, I'd love to open up the discussion to the rest of the class.
In the tradition of Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and the Three Stooges comes the adventures of the Kung Fu Rascals.
It's just another day of Kung Fu fighting.
Let me introduce Casey Regan. What did you think of this turd?
Oh, I am so excited that we get to disagree so harshly. This movie was fantastic. I loved it so much. I'm not saying it's not without its flaws. I'm just saying, like all great art, it's in the imperfection where you really find the beauty.
Well, from our West Coast division, let's hear from Jamie Kennedy.
Oh, Greg, you really nailed it with that whole report. There's not much more to be said, but there's also so much to be said. I am definitely in the Greg Hanson camp on this. Enjoyable, but also, like, I will be walking on eggshells for the entirety of this podcast because so much of this made me uncomfortable in a way that only a 14-year-old from the 90s could make happen.
Well, let's hear from our resident nerd for all seasons, Josh Roth.
Guys, that was the best episode of Teenage Mutant Power Rangers that I've ever seen.
Split room.
Great, Josh, you're walking the path of glory, Josh.
Oh boy, the path of power most big.
If I'm being honest, I'm going to continue to diverge from JB and say I did not enjoy very much of this at all.
Oh.
I wanted to.
The special effects I was continuously impressed by for what they had. Like, the costumes are legitimately good, I think.
The makeup was impressive, and that's pretty good.
I was impressed by the force perspective giant fight at the end of the movie, which we'll get to eventually, and I still don't know how he climbed up that wall. Can anyone tell me how he climbed up that wall?
It was a sticky flypaper technique.
Yeah, sticky flypaper technique.
I know, but how did he climb up the wall? So much of this movie was offensive. Like, just really hard to look at it through the lens of 2020. So hard.
It was probably hard to look at it through the lens of 1992.
It was hard to look at it through the lens of the camera, if we're being honest.
It looked good. Like, I mean, there were definitely times...
Did it?
Look, there were times when they made, I think, the creative decision to shut all the lights off in the scene, which was great, especially during kung fu moments, to just watch a black soup of characters wearing all black. I thought that was it was interesting. Violence is a blanket of darkness that covers humanity, and I think that's what this movie was trying to say.
I also thought it was a bold choice to use the entirety of the Hanna-Barbera sound effects library during the course of this movie. For everything. My personal favorite being when the sheriff starts waving his hand and each hand movement has like but it was
slide whistles,
like pratfall, like things that should not have synced up with it, but they were like, that sounds great.
It was a decision, I think, to make literally every movement of the body, every thought, every change of expression needed to sound like something.
Yes.
I want to get into it because the person who sound designed this movie also was the composer and played the sheriff of what's it? Of
Tsinghua County, and Tsinghua is Chinese, I believe in French.
So deep, so many layers.
The sheriff of Tsinghua County, and that person's name is Les Claypool,
the head of the band Primus.
but it's not him. But it looks so much like him that my brain was just melting.
It is him.
It is not him.
No,
it
it
is
is him.
not. It is not Primus's Les Claypool.
Yes, it
It
is
is a different guy named Les E. Claypool III.
What?
This is I know.
This is news
I
to
know.
me. I did
wow.
so much research last night into Les Claypool because I'm like, I know that name.
No, I know.
What?
Even IMDb has it as Les Claypool, the guy from Primus. But it is not Les Claypool. It's this guy, Les E. Claypool III, who looks exactly like Les Claypool.
Well, have we ever seen Les Claypool and Les E. Claypool III in the same room, Casey? Have we? Have we?
That's it. It is like, this is one of those moments where the like simulation theory holds some water to me, where I'm like, I can't believe there is another person on the planet named Les Claypool, and that he is also in the like audio space. This guy, so he was I went on a deep dive.
I
love
this guy.
This.
The archaeologist, Casey Regan.
Yes.
I know. I read a lot of just like horror convention blogs and like audio nerd shit last night.
I'm glad you did this research, because I was honestly like, what was Les Claypool doing? Why did he do this horrible like rinky dink MIDI like keyboard bullshit that like really doesn't work?
So he was a guy who was making his own kung fu feature film, and then he realized one day during shooting it he didn't have any Asian people in his kung fu movie. So
my face palm.
He realized
isn't reading on.
He realized a while into production he had no Asian people in his kung fu film. So he reached out to a mutual friend, Steve Wang. Now, this first movie never was finished, but it did lead to the collaboration that was Kung Fu Rascals. They apparently spent weeks sound designing it, composing it together in Les E. Claypool III's mother's garage. And then from this movie, slingshotted into a pretty sweet, prolific career doing the English dubbing for huge anime films and TV shows. I think his studio, Magnitude 8, worked on the English dub of Akira. I think it worked on
the Third, Castle of Cagliostro.
Huge.
Perfect Blue. Wow, Perfect Blue? The dialogue editor?
Perfect Blue is very good.
Cowboy Bebop sound supervisor. Wow.
This is some Alan Silvestri in Mac and Me level slingshotting.
I appreciate that reference.
That's a good reference. I think we can agree that the prosthetics and some of the costumes, some of the creature effects, some of the compositing is way higher quality than what the rest of this movie is bringing. Because a lot of these people, the cast, the crew, which was not huge, were real creature effects and like stunt and visual effects people who were, their pedigree is pretty crazy. Like they seem to, in my researching, have met or started working together doing the creature effects for Predator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much everybody in this movie or who has anything to do with this movie is a special effects person. So it's not surprising to me that the special effects look good and are...
For no money.
For no money.
Quote, no money.
But I will say, while I appreciate it, a lot of it is stuff that is taken from other movies.
Oh, again,
Well-
when you said called Repo Rufio, like literally, Hook came out the year before this movie. Steve saw that and was like, yes, taking that character just...
Sure. But not even that. So that, like, all of the frog people, like, he did the, Steve Wang did the creature effects on Hell Comes to FogCon, so he just brought the frogs, which I appreciate because that's genius.
Yeah.
But it is also to say that it's not like they didn't like stretch their money in terms of being like, look at how ingenious we could be with very little. It's like, we have all this stuff already, let's write a movie around it, which is just like a different kind of ingenious and one that I generally adore, except when it gives me 90 minutes of the least I've maybe ever laughed.
The movie opens with a lizard man carrying a pig man, and the pig man jumps off of him and says,
Thanks for the ride. You're welcome.
I genuinely laughed, and that was the beginning of the movie, and I knew I was in for a ride.
I think when I saw that, I was like, oh no, I've got 90 minutes to go.
I could watch decent to good creature makeup just do anything for 90 minutes.
And if the main characters were creatures, then I'd be with you.
Oh, yeah.
It's the fact that we have to stick to these friggin' idiots for so long, and they do so little. This movie really could have been like summarized on a napkin. It's there's so little that actually happens. There's the fight scenes are long and badly choreographed.
Oh, hard disagree.
Or
yeah.
hard to discern.
Hard disagree.
I have a quote for this, actually. I pulled up this interview with Steve Wang. Did it take long to develop the script for Kung Fu Rascals? And Steve responds, 1 week. As I said earlier, I was shooting the trailer first. When I decided to turn it into a full feature, I knew that if I stopped production for a month to write, I would never be able to get my crew back. We were on a roll. I had to drop some of the characters altogether because we couldn't get it to work within the 100-minute format. The script was actually only 30 pages and was written in short form. The beach of the War God sequence was originally only 1/8 of the final sequence that I ended up shooting. One of the key elements to Kung Fu Rascals was ad-libbing. We ad-libbed quite a bit of the film.
Okay.
Wait, we gotta get into the plot, right?
We gotta get into the plot.
What plot?
There was plot.
Because looking at my notes, I think I was with you. I think I was on y'all's wavelength up until a certain moment.
Okay.
Because it is like, we get two creatures walking down a hallway and they come face to face with Bamboo Man from Kung Pao. That was, I think, the funniest I ever found the nameplates. When it said Bamboo Man from Kung Pao, it's like, oh, that's who it is. I couldn't see you in the dark. There you are.
This very dark, exceedingly long hallway.
The chyrons are the best part of the movie.
They are, and very helpful.
Right, because they didn't really say a lot of the names of the characters very much.
No.
I mean, look, you really don't want to miss the names in this movie because they're so goddamn hilarious. Buffoon.
How dare you?
That's what this whole movie is.
I know. So that we find out that the Bamboo Man from Kung Pao is trying to do something. Now, I never really could discern what it was he was trying to do.
No.
He definitely plays it close to his gooey chest.
He was trying to get the power most big.
Right.
Silence. Piece of stone. A key to a force. To a power most big.
But he had the Moonstone. Did he want
Which
to
we
control
didn't find out
both of
until
them?
later.
He wanted the Moonstone and the Sunstone map.
Right.
The Moonstone's just the Moonstone. The Sunstone is the Sunstone map, which I assume...
But then also turns into the sun... but
And
it's
he
also
had
the
it.
Sunstone.
It is the... Yeah, he had both stones. The only little bit we get is that Rasputin, the Mad Monk, a disgustingly sweaty pig man,
aren't they all?
says that they've been like attacking a Shaolin temple and had many casualties, but all of their casualties were expendable. So they're waging some sort of war
that we never see.
The Shaolin.
Just to say, we never see this war.
And we never see it. Something that I believe is like a tenet of great movies is every great movie should reference a better movie that you will never see in the dialogue somewhere. So then we learn that the Sunstone map has been stolen by Chen Xiaomain,
Master thief and all-around great guy.
Oh, yeah, that's when we meet Lao Zi.
Oh my god. That's when we meet the other two rascals.
When we meet the other two.
Titular rascals.
Ow! Concentrate on the finger, and you will miss all the heavenly glory.
Who are you?
It's me, Lao Tse.
And what's with the wig?
It's an exhibition.
Listen up.
Lao Zi is a white man with a fake Bruce Lee haircut wig. He is looking at himself in a compact mirror with a picture of Bruce Lee painted on it, and also wearing almond eye inserts to make himself look Asian. And I think it was at that moment that I was like, oh, apparently even Asians can make really offensive things against Asians. And I mean, like, I guess it's the idea is that he's white, but I don't know, putting a guy in sort of Asian...
In any context, Though one could argue later on in the film, when he temporarily loses his first Bruce Lee wig and it's replaced with a clown wig, it could be making the argument that he truly is a clown. You know, a white man parading as something he is not, and he is all the more a fool because of it. But
I think
I read that article on JSTOR, Jamie.
I definitely read that eventually. Like, I think to give this movie all the credit that it doesn't deserve.
It doesn't.
He is definitely the fool of the movie. He's the one who has to learn lessons. He is definitely the fool opposite Chen Xiaomain.
But Repo is also the fool. So then you have two in, like...
Well, I'd like to point out we have three fools from the Orient.
That's true. I guess that's their name. But what does Chen do that's ever fool, like...
No, Chen's our elite. Chen's like the guy who has mastered martial arts. He is like the character in the martial arts movie who is good and is humbled by his, like, loved ones and friends. If he was only like a lust for power martial artist, he'd be one of the villains. But he is restrained by like his foolish compatriots who also like give him his humanity. His greatest burden is his accomplices.
Remember, to master the art of Kung Fu, you must first perfect the three key elements: speed, balance, and precision. The success of our quest heavily depends on our superior Kung Fu skills. Maybe this mission wasn't such a good idea.
Again, I'm giving a lot of grandeur to this movie.
And,
but I think...
And Lao Zi is always asking Chen Xiaomain, like, for the meaning of life and the secrets of martial arts.
I can't believe we're saying all these names with like a straight face.
We gotta do it.
This is horrible.
Now, Repo is also a fool character, but Repo is, to me, is, if we're to look at like Shakespearean fools.
Oh, let's.
Lao Zi is human. He's the Toby Belch. He's the Stefano. He is a much more like human fool. His follies are like ego.
Yep.
So the whitest person who's ever existed, applying yellowface to become his idol, Bruce Lee. And while it is the fool of the movie, there are upsetting things about that. But I will say that it fails in the same way that all caricaturing and like insert race face fails, which is like, he didn't look like Bruce Lee. When he put those eye prosthetics on, he looked more like he was doing like Liza Minnelli drag, but like today's Liza Minnelli. Like Liza Minnelli from Arrested Development. Like that's the drag he was going for.
Loose seal! Loose seal!
Whereas like Repo is sprightly. Repo's like a puck. Repo was really the anchor that was keeping me in this movie because he is like, his foolishness comes from magic. He is like, I loved him so much. I really did. Like, anytime the rest of the movie knocked me out with some corny joke, some like truly racist misstep, I knew that Repo was gonna be there to like bring me back.
Hold your hand.
Yeah, to bring me back with just some like good old hijinks. He sure had some hijinks.
Repo's pants was amongst my favorite costuming in the movie. I'll say that much.
It certainly gets a lot of close-ups.
So many close-ups. Very 90s.
Oh yeah, he is kind of dressed in like a Bam Bam chic. Like
Rufio meets Bam Bam. Yeah.
Repo. I think it's weirdly prescient. Like, it reminds me a lot of Kung Fu Hustle, which is a better movie that came out a full decade later. The live action cartoon aspect mixed with the martial arts that is done better, but is like in this movie is pretty revolutionary and interesting.
I mean, I will point out that this is also following the Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung Hong Kong, Drunken Master, Armor of God, like all these kung fu comedies that came out in the wake of the sort of post Bruce Lee Hong Kong film cycle that did basically this type of thing, but like less slapstick in some regards, or I guess at least like less broad slapstick. So it's like, I do think that they're sort of trying to do like a Jackie Chan meets Three Stooges, like Sam Raimi and company were trying to do Exorcist meets Three Stooges type thing, just with a lot less money and a lot less ideas.
Yeah.
Did Jackie Chan ever pee into a stream and then have not one but two jokes following it of two different characters either splashing the pee on their face or drinking it straight up without noticing it was
There's
pee?
so much urine in this movie.
We could talk for ages about the pee. The pee,
so much.
The pee in this movie factors more heavily into the plot than Bamboo Man, if we're being honest.
Yeah, than any of the Stones.
And Chen later on says what we're all thinking when Repo goes over to try and put out the fire using pee. Chen goes,
No, there's no time for that.
Chen, the character, thought that. Steve Wang, the director-writer, did not have time. Steve Wang, the director-writer, always had time for pee. So, Lao Zi and Chen Xiaoming and Repo, they come together. They're rascals. And, I think laughs are had by all.
except the audience.
I would love for you to not talk for me in this episode, Casey.
Casey, you and I are on the same page, at least.
Yeah, Josh and I get what Steve Wang was doing.
You guys have a sense of humor, and we are humorless assholes. I get it.
Yeah,
Look, I will admit that in these early scenes, my stomach dropped a little bit, thinking that we
have
were
a long road. We have a long road to go down.
All of the goodwill it had earned by showing like pretty good creature effects. It had won a lot of goodwill with me. I was like, okay, like this is nonsense, but at least it looks fun. And then I forgot all about that first scene. It was just pushed out of my head.
We are still talking about the first 10 minutes of the movie.
No, it's an hour 40.
It just shows how rich a world Steve Wang crafted.
They had a lot to develop.
I knew that I was in for something when I wrote down in my notes, the map is a gingerbread man, and then not a second later, on screen, they said,
That's it?
That's it.
Looks like a gingerbread man.
I'm hungry.
They were in your head. They were in your head, Josh.
But I think that tells you a lot. This movie knows exactly what it is.
It does. No, it does. But it knows exactly what it is, again, in the way that, we all did when we were making movies in the 90s at age 14 with, our best guy friends. I'll speak for myself with that. And, you were working on that level of, both self-parody and what you think is funny and, creating these kind of things. but those didn't get released for the world to see. Like, it's one big, like, immature inside joke amongst friends that doesn't land with the general public, I don't think.
You gotta hand it to the direct-to-video boom for unleashing a myriad of basically unreleasable movies.
Let me just hazard you that we should not be complaining about some sort of boom allowing people's private jokes and conversations to be unleashed upon the masses as we get into podcasting. Okay.
Touché!
But there was a moment. Okay, so we reached the point for me. The moment was when I really turned and thought maybe this movie is a masterpiece, and it comes up in the next scene. So our three heroes decide to go get lunch. So they go into this restaurant where they meet our JV villains, our like B bad guys of the movie.
JV villains is great.
Who have been tasked by Rasputin, the Mad Monk, to capture Chen Xiaomain and company and get back the Sunstone map. This is the sheriff of Tsinghua County, played by a Les Claypool, not the Les Claypool. And then his lackeys, Darling and Buffoon.
And if the racism so far wasn't enough to make you cringe,
and it wasn't,
the gay coding on Darling was literally the most uncomfortable runner through this whole ordeal for me.
Ooh, look, boss, it's that dumb guy we're after. He's fallen into our evil clutches. Ooh, what ripply muscles.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that was too far.
Okay, so I have a lot of thoughts about Darling.
I'm sure you fucking do.
Oh my god.
Before we get into Darling, they have a face-off with the sheriff of Tsinghua County, and he calls forth ninjas. Up until this point, I'm with you guys. I'm like, this really seems like it's going to be a piece of garbage. The acting's bad. Fighting has not been great. Everything has been just like soggy cereal. It's been soggy cereal up until this point. And then the sheriff is threatening them. And he says,
"So, what's it gonna be, punk?"
And when he says punks, smoke comes out of his mouth. Earlier in the scene, he took a drag of cigarette, never exhaled it until he says punk. And it's like a 5-minute scene that he's been holding an inhalation of a cigarette in. And I'm like, this movie is the shit. This movie is having so much fun. And I'm like, yes, a lot of it is offensive and poorly conceived. But that moment brought me into the headspace of the people making it. We're like, these guys are having a fucking good time.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's hard to make the argument that they're not having a blast. That's great. Bully to you. But I don't want to watch it. There's always something charming, especially there was like a whole bunch of these like late 80s, early 90s like cult comedy type things where it's like kids that grew up on this cult cinema doing parodies, and most of them are like kind of tough and have some moments. It's like the trauma syndrome where like the knowing camp becomes sometimes charming and sometimes tough, but there's usually something there that you're like, oh, okay, I kind of get it. And this, I was just like, oh no, like some of the best jokes are at the beginning, and then they just kept returning to the same well over and over again. And I was like, they go to the old wise man, or aka the old wise guy.
Old wise guy.
who in my opinion, is the only funny character in the movie.
You mean Dr. McCoy, Vulcan pirate?
That's a good amalgamation.
Not bad. Pretty smart for a dumb little stupid.
The opening of the scene, they walk in and they're searching around the shop with the creatures in the nooks and crannies, and Lao Zi finds a little gong, hits it, and it shakes the world so much, and everyone just needs to mug their way left, mug their way right. And I found myself thinking, well, egg on old Christopher Nolan's face, huh? Like, he had to build a whole multi-million-dollar set to shake the floor. You fool, Chris. You could have just turned the camera back and forth.
You just move the camera and then everybody leans to the left. They figured this out in the 60s.
You fool.
Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, exactly. I do think that where all the movie's working pieces worked the best was in the old wise guy's shop. The set was good. That was like a side character who had like a lot of fun business.
The fart joke was motivated.
I mean, he had a great pet snake prop.
Yep.
Oh, the laziest snake in the history of cinema. If I get to the point where I'm shoving my mouse into my pet snake's mouth, I mean, that's time to put that snake out to pasture, I think.
Snake is dead, Jim.
Yeah.
It's dead, Jim.
It's dead, Jim.
The old wise guy gives them a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo.
I thought it was just really beautiful poetry. I just found it lovely.
When all of the hardship have befallen the three join together to unlock the key. For no chain is stronger than the chain's weakest link. Three join together, the key is closer than you think.
Well, he tells them that they have to go to the town of Tupid, right?
Town of Tupid, yeah.
They pass a bunch of intersecting signs. And this was sort of, as you mentioned, the idea of talking about better movies that you don't see. Not only are they finding the sign for Tupid, but also Bloodtown and Monster Island, both of which are movies I'd rather be watching.
Yeah. The old wise guy's riddles had very strong dungeon master morning of a D&D session energy.
The whole movie does have the feeling like it is a dungeon master who's getting really frustrated. Like, you sure you don't want to go to Bloodtown? I wrote all this.
Stupid is the dumbest name in the world. How can you not want to go to Bloodtown?
I just took the S off stupid.
What's the challenge rating of Neo Titan? What's the challenge rating of Neo Titan?
Well, I need to get them on their own Neo Titan so they can fight that Neo Titan. Otherwise, like, it's gonna be a TPK.
So it's an elemental.
God.
Okay,
How
conjuring a Neo Titan.
They were supposed to go to Monster Island.
So the old wise guy gives them directions to the X on the Gingerbread Man map. He says it's 2 stones throw,
yes,
1 pebble throw, and 1 hip hop. Look, Lousy is a racist caricature of a racist character.
Yes.
It's so many layers that I found offensive until when you're watching a movie where a white actor is dressed as Bruce Lee and doing a Bruce Lee voice and then screams,
"What the hell's a hip hop?"
I was like, I found myself like clutching my temples, being like, "Is this art?" Like a white racist character in the early '90s screaming, "What the hell's a hip hop?" America has never been writ so poetically in a movie before. But and then when the old wise guy is telling their poetic futures, there is the most insufferable sound effect of a fly buzzing around that lasts for so long it like hurt my brain.
Yeah.
It was like at a register that was just perfectly annoying, and then my sweet baby boy Repo kills the fly, and I think just out of Stockholm syndrome I was like, that's my favorite character. he saved me from pain.
And when he spits into Repo's hand at the end,
yeah,
great, nice big wet loogie.
And here's the swimming pool.
Oh god, I'm gonna like vomit.
The movie is effectively goopy, which I appreciate. Any good special effects man is worth his weight in goop, I believe.
Yeah, I was a bit intrigued by the relationship between Repo and the old wise guy.
I think it's like the wisdom of the fool, like the fool sees through the old wise guy for what he truly is, and like that's why they had that little standoff at the end.
Yeah,
where he farts in his face.
Where he farts in his face.
There's a Looney Tunes cigar explosion and a slide whistle.
Yep.
Jamie, I'm glad you're getting on my.
I am not.
That we're
I am.
There's a lot of dialectics you could like take apart.
Sure, yeah.
There's the old wise guy lights up a cigar using he does my favorite thing in movies, which is using the side of someone's face to strike a match, and then he lights up his cigar, and while he's lighting his cigar, Repo, being the puckish devil that he is, farts a fireball in the old wise guy's face.
I cast fart ball.
I think the flaming fart in the face, it is the movie recreating my experience of watching the movie. Like, a flaming fart in the face is, I think, how I describe this whole movie to me.
Ugh.
I think that this is where we agree, which is that I would also describe this movie as a fart.
Gross. Offensive, unwelcome,
funny to 14-year-olds.
Funny to 14-year-olds.
Right. Actually, the movie is rated PG-13, but I do not know who over the age of 13 this is aimed at.
Great question.
I mean, we're coming to find out me. I think it's
I think it's us.
You would say to me, totally honestly, that if someone shot a flaming fireball in your face, your only emotion would be anger? No, you'd be amazed. You'd be...
And dead.
Probably dead. I think comparing it to the humor of a 14-year-old is great because it is, like, equal parts insipid sort of, like, childishness that is, like, annoying and also goofy and endearing. To me, but...
Yes.
I think part of it is that this type of thing works better if you have a lot of jokes. And this movie did not. They were just like, it was like they put on their joke helmets and they went into that joke mine and they were like, we're down here. We're going to find all this gold.
Yeah. And then they ran screaming out, the canary's dead!
Sell it to video!
In this moment, we get a training montage, which leads into the first example of Lao Zi is asking Chen how he stays so calm in battle. And Chen says, I think beyond thought. And Lao Zi says, I gave it, I said Lao Zi. I gave them more credit.
I caught that too.
Yeah. Lao Zi says,
please enlighten me. How do you do that?
By not thinking.
Boing.
Which gets reprised later when he's like, I'm seeking the secret of life. And he's like, I know the secret of life. Oh, what is it? It's a secret. Boing.
Yeah, so then what we get is like an extended Kung Fu Rascals versus Ninja fight scene. It opens on a shot that is a close-up of P hitting rock. And then like the outline of the shot are those delightful Repo pants out of focus in the foreground, and we're looking at like urine stream hitting a rock. And for the first time in my life, like camouflage worked on me, where like because it was in the foreground out of focus, I was like, what is where are we? What is the shot? I was so lost. And then it pulled out. I was like, oh, it's piss again. Damn you, Steve Wang.
He got you.
I think that those were not camouflage. I think that those were zebra pants. Or leopard print. They were leopard print.
Yeah, natural animal camouflage. I am never wrong. Please remember, I'm never wrong. But so then we get the gag where Repo's peeing, and then they call for him, and he turns around and pisses in the face of a ninja who is sneaking up on them. Haha, we all laughed, I'm sure. Had to pause because we were laughing so hard. I don't know how much we want to get into all of it. I did really like the bone nunchucks.
I also like the bone
nunchucks were great.
I like because he has them throughout the beginning of the movie, and then they have a purpose.
Well, yeah, he definitely earns his zebra stripes at that point.
Yeah, nice. It had all the ninjas were like defeated by our heroes. I mean, mostly because it's like a goofy, fun movie. But like all of the ninjas had like swords and sais and shit, but we're afraid to swing them.
One at a time, the VIP ninja hands off his swords and then goes to fight Lao Zi.
They drop all their bladed weapons before they tackle Lao Zi, which is very disappointing for me because I was just hoping they'd like stab him.
Stab.
I gotta tell you, this whole sequence, I wanted them to kill him so bad.
Correct.
I just wrote, please kill him. God, please kill him. And then one ninja said, he's tough. I wrote, he's not. He's super tough. I wrote again, he's super not. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought that that is actually like a brilliant, really realistic thing, because I've never swung a sword at someone. I'd imagine it'd be very scary. I don't even want to see that happen to someone. I don't want me to do it to someone. Oh no, Jamie's
For the
getting
listeners at home.
Jamie's swinging a huge Highlander sword around.
That's Longclaw.
From Game of Thrones.
For the listeners at home, in our office, Jamie has a wall of fictional weapons, including...
That looks like a very real weapon.
Oh yeah, it is a serious...
It's a real sword.
It's a sword.
Forgive me for calling it a Highlander sword and mistake. I thought it was nerdy. It was just a super cool Game of Thrones sword.
Yep.
So, yeah, Lousy gets captured, unfortunately, alive.
Well, that gives us the Imperial Torture Master.
I appreciated his design.
Yes!
I also liked, I'm glad that we're at least all on the same page as far as the things that were actually good about the movie.
Yeah.
Which was, the Imperial Torture Master, excellent.
Looked great. His teeth.
No front teeth.
The eye, the like loops.
Yeah, the
in front of his
glasses.
glasses.
Yeah. So good.
He was like, I can't think of a specific example, but it rang very Terry Gilliam.
I was gonna say the same thing. It feels like Terry Gilliam in Holy Grail. He's another old wise guy.
Yeah.
But he's like this old figure, and he's like,
totally.
And then he like disappears, and they're just sitting in the forest.
Yes.
But it looks exactly like Terry Gilliam in that movie.
But then after this great introduction, boy, does the well run dry of him taking out pieces of metal from his bag and saying, like, under his breath, this is a good thing to torture with. No. This is a good thing to torture. And it just keeps going.
I don't know. It kind of went back around.
Did it?
Like, it goes too long, and then it comes back around. It's funny.
I think I definitely took out my phone at this point.
Jamie, I'm with you. These boys are crazy. You gotta get a divorce.
No, I think what's brilliant about it is the Imperial Torture Master is torturing us also. But get this, kids. You think they're going to do something violent to Lousy, but what they end up doing, in front of his screaming, mewling face, is cutting up his Bruce Lee wig.
And bits of it fly into his mouth.
Right. The hair's falling into his mouth.
Because it's the only way to break him.
Yeah.
Right.
And
to take this one aspect of his personality that he has crafted for himself.
A lifetime of watching movies makes you like instinctively want to cheer against the bad guys, but when they were cutting up that Bruce Lee wig, I was like, these are the heroes. These are the heroes of the movie.
These are the heroes we need.
Now kill him.
Anyone who wants to hurt Lousy must be my friend.
The enemy of Lousy is my friend.
I imprinted on the Imperial Torture Master in that moment. I loved everything about him. I feel like we haven't really talked about Darling yet.
Oh God,
I'd rather not.
This is when I was just done with Darling.
Oh.
I think we have to talk about Darling, if
Darling
only because
has one great moment for me that made me laugh, and it is the fan off that he does with Chen. That is a legitimately great little
the next scene,
give and take of humor, and I appreciated that.
Well, tough guy, the tables are turned this time.
It wasn't necessarily reliant on him being a gay stereotype. It was just like a visual gag, so I liked that.
It was a very loud stereotype that this person was playing. By the way, same actor playing Darling was Bamboo Man.
What?
Shut up. Guy. I did not know that.
He was playing it so loud and so big in a world otherwise totally devoid of any sexuality.
Yes.
Like there is no sex in this movie whatsoever. Like even sexiness at all. Like it is entirely a world where it's just, it's another day for Kung Fu.
But he's also not playing it from, like, a sex-driven perspective, He's playing it just from, like, the flair. Like, to the point where, like, the characters aren't weirded out by him because they feel like he's coming on to them. They're weirded out by him because they think of him as like almost like an alien creature, because he's like, get off me, whatever you are. Like,
right.
He's just a guy.
It's like a 12-year-old's idea.
Yes.
This whole movie is very prepubescent in its understanding of the world. When confronted with the sexuality, it does not know what to do with it.
Gross!
Yeah, like...
I try to understand the brain doing it, and it's like, to like step out of the logic of the movie and just from our own morals and ethics, the people more in touch with their sexuality, whoever they are more like liberated, are like stronger characters. And the only two characters who have any semblance of sexuality is Darling and the Imperial Torture Master, who like hits on him. And it's like beautiful. I really cheered for their relationship.
Ship them.
I would go to that wedding.
I really shipped Darling and Imperial Torture Master. The third clone of Les Claypool, like, he's having fun. He's having fun in this movie. Like, he is playing so big all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I know there's so much. We've gotten so into minutia, but, like, I want to talk about the slow-mo walking.
I was just about to say that.
Yes.
I was about to say the exact same thing.
Yes.
The slow-motion walking in real time, where he's the only one walking in slow motion and the rest of his crew follows him by also just walking slowly, is funny.
Yeah.
Is legitimately funny. And the moment of confusion where they look at him and they're trying to assess what's happening.
Oh, ominous.
In some ways, I'm upset with a movie that hits every so often than a movie that fails across the board.
Yeah.
Because if you fail across the board, it's like, well, you didn't have a chance. Whereas, like, if you have, like, these small moments of, like, oh, why didn't you just write it more? Why didn't you just write a script, you idiots?
More than
like,
a week? Why didn't you spend more than a week working on this?
So, yeah, I mean, the next scene where Chen Chow Mein ends up running up the side of a sheer rock face using, quote-unquote, sticky flypaper technique, which was, as you guys mentioned, legitimately cool looking and death-defying in a way that the movie did not seem to have a budget for.
Right, that's why I'm like, at first we thought, like, is it the Batman technique? Is it really just, like, a flat? But no, we saw it from different angles, and, like, it looked like wire work, but can they afford wire work?
Could you even paint out wires back then?
Like, yes, but it would take longer and be very annoying.
It was genuinely cool.
I have an answer.
Oh my
from
God,
this
what?
interview. One thing I remember is when I shot the sticky flypaper scene, I had to scale the wall. Everybody thought it was a camera cheat. Well, the wall was real, and it was around 3.5 stories tall. It was slightly slanted, so I could actually scale it.
Whoa.
Damn.
He was actually climbing
So that's impressive. I'm gonna give credit where credit is due, and that's impressive.
So he scales the wall and confronts the sheriff, Darling, Buffoon, and the ninjas, while Repo sneaks in from behind.
Watch the back door.
The back door!
The back door!
You wasted all your energy guarding the front door. But who's guarding your back door?
The back door!
Chen Chow Meng goes in the front door while Repo sneaks in the basement window of the woods. The back door. It begins our last human fight scene of the movie.
Yes.
Between the sheriff and Chen Chow Meng, and I thought it was awesome. I thought it was like a genuinely really good fight scene, and it kept cutting to the hijinks of Repo and Lao Zi, which was less fun. But like
But my brain has only retained that part. Like, I could not tell you what happens in the fight scene between the sheriff and
this great
Chen.
moment where they are symmetrically fighting.
What?
And
yeah,
it's actually cool. Like, Chen and the sheriff they punch at the same time in the same way, and it's pretty cool.
I don't remember this.
It owes so much to Mr. Jackie Chan. Like, it owes so much to, like, Hong Kong movies that it immediately succeeds. But it does, what I love about those movies is it's like what I look for in a fight scene is, yes, technical prowess is fun. It's fun to see someone who's like a martial artist do all these impressive things, but that means less to me than the hits feel real, and it gets to the point where it's a brawl. I want to get to the point where it seems like it's getting brutal, like where it feels like these are two guys who want to hurt each other. And it did feel that way. The fighting was like pretty impressive, and more impressive to know that this was a fight between a special effects technician and an audio supervisor. Like these are our heroes.
This is the LA unions in 1992 taking out their grievances.
This is how you settled union battles back then.
Right. These are our people. These are just like two nerds. It felt cool. Like, it felt awesome. I was most in the movie at that point.
Personally, I think the scene that did it for me the best is, and it should be no particular surprise, but is the scenes after where Rasputin takes the Moonstone and calls forth the Neo-Titan.
Now go and crush the enemies.
And our heroes put together the Gingerbread Man and bring forth, what is it, Metaspartan.
Yes.
And they have a giant kaiju fight. The giant rock monsters really looked like giant rock monsters.
The texture was incredible. Like,
yeah.
I knew that it was like, fabric and everything, but they did a really good job making it look like a giant rock monster walking around. I was legitimately impressed with that scene.
Were they on the beach from Planet of the Apes? Because
I wondered that.
100%.
I feel like they were in Malibu, because I was recognizing some of the rock formations.
Their use of forced perspective was particularly good and edited into it well, where like if you lingered on the shot too long, it would become obvious.
I have some location answers.
Location follow-up.
So these are both shot in Malibu. Planet of the Apes was shot at Point Doom, which is where we went on our mini-moon.
We did that. We did a mini-moon at Point Doom.
10 minutes up the beach is El Matador Beach, where this was shot.
Okay.
Nice. The good kaiju, the good stone kaiju, Metaspartan.
Benihana Santa Claus.
Yeah, defeats Neo-Titan by calling for the staff.
Silently,
that Chen
over
Xiaoming,
and over again.
But the compositing shot when we see the giant Metaspartan asking for the staff with our hero in the foreground was like great. Again, it's like when you have the lab technician visual effect team from like Big Trouble in Little China. Like this dumb movie like looks awesome.
While also Chen Xiaoming and Rasputin have a well-choreographed fight scene.
Yeah.
Chen Xiaoming says he has to go do some pork chopping, which I think you can write 100 bad lines if you have that line in there.
Chen has that awesome fight with Rasputin. Throws a rock at him and the Moonstone shatters like peanut brittle. But also then the Moonstone shattering has no effect.
No.
I thought it would maybe do something to the Neo-Titan, but it does nothing. And then the Neo-Titan, when he shows up the first time, this towering stone figure guy, and Repo's on the ground and he's looking up and Gingerbread Man! And it's the shape of the Gingerbread Man is the Neo-Titan. But then they use the Sunstone Gingerbread Man to summon the Metaspartan, which looks nothing like the stone. The stone looks like the Neo-Titan.
Yeah.
It's almost like the movie doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Almost
well, when you say it like that.
Yeah, I got so sad for the Neo-Titan when the Neo-Titan has been sent to kill Chen and Laozi and Repo, and then they call the Metaspartan from the sea, and the Neo-Titan is looking at the Metaspartan like, I've never seen another one of my kind before.
Brother?
And then Rasputin's like, go, destroy him, I have the Moonstone, I control you.
What are you waiting for? Attack! Go, go, go! In the name of the Empire of Kapow, I order you to destroy him! Crush, kill, destroy!
My heart sank. I got so sad. This movie is making a case of beautiful, intelligent titans. We human beings, we have no business controlling them. This movie's like Blackfish before Blackfish.
Yeah, I love that they tied up his legs like an AT-AT.
Yes, they just pull a Hoff with seaweed.
Yeah, with seaweed. Also, totally inconsequential. Like, our Meta-Spartan dude is doing the work.
Oh, it does nothing.
Well, he does fall over.
Yeah, but I don't think that had anything to do with his feet being tied up.
A little bit.
Maybe a little bit. And then Repo is crushed, even though he had so much time to run in either direction. Did anyone else get strong Prometheus vibes from that?
How else are you gonna have the fake out ending where he's dead? Oh no, he's alive! Are you surprised? I'm not.
I was feeling so much remorse for the Neo Titan because again, like, it thinks it feels like, why is it dying because of our greed? And I was feeling so awful for the death of the Neo Titan that as it was falling down on top of Repo, I was like, not my favorite character, Repo. Kung Fu Rascals, is there nothing you won't take from me? Well, I knew he was coming back. I'd seen
every movie ever.
I did not foresee how he was going to come back.
Oh.
The method by which Repo re-enters the scene, we think he's been crushed, and then we see his mohawk come up like a shark through the sand, move through the beach, and then pop up.
Repo. Repo, Repo.
I did like the fact that when Repo pops out of the sand, and then we like freeze frame.
The freeze frame jump.
Love me a freeze frame jump.
The freeze frame, and then we go into the last scene with Rasmutant being denigrated by Bamboo Man with the floating lady who's taking over his position. Which I was like, okay, we've got 20 more minutes of this movie because they still haven't like killed Bamboo Man. Like, they really haven't like done very much. And then it was the end of the fucking movie.
They were setting up a sequel that never came.
And then they reveal Misha,
yeah. The coolest character.
Yeah, she was so cool. Where she like starts out as the spider monster thing and then whips around into a beautiful woman.
Misha starts as a spider lady, then becomes a Deadite from Evil Dead.
Dead by Dawn!
Then turns into just like a beautiful woman who floats everywhere at a significantly slower pace than walking.
Yeah. And then stuffs an apple in Rasputin's mouth, and then just the literal chef's kiss. The torture master returns in a chef's hat to cook him up, and I was in heaven.
Take him away, my friend. I want the map and the three fools who possess it.
It wishes my command.
We're left with a cliffhanger. I do thirst for a sequel.
I do too.
Thank you, Josh.
I immediately went online and tried to find out if there was a sequel and was grossly disappointed.
Well, I wanted a sequel when I thought Misha was going to be the big bad. And yeah, I would watch whatever that entails. That looked dope.
She's a cool character. She's genuinely creepy. She has, like, interesting powers and proves that there are, in fact, in the universe of this film, women.
Yes. The first woman in the entire movie comes in the last 5 minutes.
The end of the movie is essentially the movie going through puberty and starting to notice women.
Yeah. It's having its first little feelings. It's having its first feelings. This is a movie about growing up. You're right, Greg. It's a coming-of-age tale. I would be down with the sequel. My dream sequel would begin with them unfreezing from that freeze frame and dropping down to the beach. But as, like, them today. Like, older, past middle-aged men. Look, we've been talking a really long time about this movie, and I'm glad. But I feel like I would love to finish off by, like, getting the rip-off report card.
No!
The rip-off report card, rip-off report card.
Love
Ooh,
it.
I like that. We should keep that.
Yeah.
So,
This is your Video High rip-off report card for the Kung Fu Rascals, brought to you by me. Director and star Steve Wang has a varied filmography, mostly known for his work in special effects, including credits on the family Sasquatch pick Harry and the Hendersons, perennial beefcake shoot 'em up Predator, and the Robin Williams robot feel-bad movie of the summer, Bicentennial Man.
Woo!
But his ripoffs are far more interesting, contributing to the Roddy Piper versus giant reptiles post-nuke epic Hell Comes to Frogtown, the movie I always watched while waiting for the dentist when I was 6, Spaced Invaders, and the Miguel Ferrer head explosion classic, Deep Star 6.
oh,
He also directed the innocuously titled cyborg buddy movie Drive, which is basically Terminator 2 meets 48 Hours.
wait, so like the T-800's a racist? What? What is that? I want to watch that so bad.
So although I didn't really like Kung Fu Rascals very much, Steve Wang has added many monsters to the zeitgeist. And I say we give him a B.
Okay, alright.
Moving on, Lao Z, aka Troy Froman, surely isn't a household name. But with nearly 60 credits, most of which are from direct-to-video gems, you've likely seen him before. He's often seen in the background, but we must salute even the smallest roles. His credits include Phantasm 2, Return of the Living Dead 2, Night Wars, and Dead End City, to name a few. Working consistently amongst perennial schlockmeisters David A. Pryor for his Action International Pictures, for Donald G. Jackson's Backyard Epics, Vista Street Entertainment, and Full Moon Pictures. He's racked up credits on Platoon Knockoff, Hell on the Battleground, Hicksploitation ghost flick Ain't No Way Back, and the crossover Back to the Future meets Conan, Time Barbarians. While not always in the limelight, not all of us are destined to be. We salute you, Troy. B+.
Really, he was only able to make it based on a large inheritance from his grandfather, Sausage King of Chicago, Abe Froman.
Lastly, we'd like to grade Cleve Hall, the man who rousingly played the old wise guy, another special effects man and sometimes actor who worked on most of the Charles Band Empire Pictures pictures, like the D&D inspired anthology flick The Dungeon Master, Terminator knockoff Eliminators, and the best of the Gremlin knockoffs, Ghoulies. Cleve was also the man in the Godzilla suit in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, so let's give credit where it's due. The man deserves a B+.
Well done.
And that has been your Kung Fu Rascals Rip-Off Report Card.
A rip-off report card. Whoop. Well, fellow students of Video High, that's just another day of Kung Fu fighting for us. What of this could be on the final exam?
My final thought is just pee jokes. It turns out they can be not funny. Let me point out that if you look at its IMDb, this movie has a 6.9 out of 10. People love this movie.
Yeah, I'm one of them. I have been spamming IMDb with 10-star reviews.
Jamie, you and I are in the minority. That's a takeaway.
Oh.
Jamie and I are in a strong minority here.
Yeah, I think it was a passion project from a bunch of people who have talents best suited otherwise and under other supervisors, I think. I think this is a deeply problematic movie, of which there are many from this time, and many of which were mainstream. There's a lot of movies we can look back on today and be like, oh, that does not age well. But when 95% of it does not age well, there's not a lot of fun value we can glean from this movie. It's more of a movie that should just be thrown on the annals of history to never think of again.
I like to underline anals.
Anals.
Yeah.
I think the reason I appreciate this movie is from the point of view of like someone who did make movies in his backyard, and I think we can all understand that urge and that like desire, and The makeup effects are great. There's some genuinely good fight choreography scenes. I admire the, like, go-getting filmmaking. Like, we did it. This is a passion project of ill-fated passion that they finished that I think has merits.
I feel like, look, this is a problematic movie in both the sense that it's not, like, a movie that's the most pregnant with ideas, and it's also problematic insofar as, like, yes, there are aspects of it that are racist, there are aspects of it that are, like, homophobic, but it is all those things in, as we've said 100 times, a very, like, immature teenage way, and while that doesn't mean it is good, I don't think it is as much racist as it is just generally anti-human, at least pathologically, if not purposefully. All the characters besides Chen Xiaoming display, like, all the worst aspects of humanity and are just constantly, like, pissing, and, like, what transcends that is the way of kung fu. Like, it is a kung fu movie that is anti-human because it's not a movie that is depicting life, it's a movie depicting a love of kung fu movies. Again, is me being a very generous.
But not to give it a total pass, because there is, using fighting terms, punching up and punching down, and this movie only punches down.
Right. Yeah. No matter what way you want to look at it, very pro-punching. we love punching.
Everybody was kung fu punching.
From the Orient, and we're back in trouble, a predicament. The bad guys need a lesson in kung fu etiquette. Repo Chen Xiao Mein Lao Zi, Repo Chen Xiao Mein Lao Zi, Repo Chen Xiao Mein Lao Zi, Kung Fu Rascals 3, Kung Fu Rascals 3.
Thank you so much for listening to Video High. I'm Greg Hanson. I'd like to thank my co-hosts Casey Regan, Josh Roth, and Jamie Kennedy for an amazing show. I'd also like to thank Seth Applebaum of the Ghost Funk Orchestra and Gabriella Tessitore of Scout Harris for the amazing theme song, Justin Ferraro of the Rizzos for our sound design and bed music, Ann Shearer for our amazing logo, our teacher, Mr. Philip Marlowe, and you for listening. Next week's episode is Salsa, the motion picture from 1988, so don't miss it. Be sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for coming to class. And remember, if people laugh at you for your love of B-movies, tell them to fuck off.
I'm Meta Spartan, protector of the righteous.